Welcome to your St. Patrick's Day edition of the Doom Report. I got a really interesting story to tell you at the end, so hang on for that. The Russian Federation is conducting an information campaign about the creation of the Narva People's Republic in Estonia. That's probably not going to go over real well. Cuban officials say that the country's national electric grid has completely collapsed, leaving the entire nation without electricity. The fire on the aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, took over 30 hours to put out last week. The Food and Drug Administration said that a brand of raw cheddar sold in multiple states is linked to an E. coli outbreak. Although the company has declined to recall the product, 2 Raw Farms brand products are linked to the outbreak. The FDA said the statement on March 15th and that it includes all sizes of the company's raw cheddar. Fuel sales in Great Britain may be restricted due to the Middle East crisis. Reports the Times, according to the newspaper, this measure may be necessary to ensure the uninterrupted operation of public transit and hospitals if the conflict lasts another 2 weeks. Fuel rationing. I think somebody might have mentioned that a few weeks ago. Iran has threatened the UK with military action if it sends warships to the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says oil production on Craig Island remains fully operational and uninterrupted. Israel has unalived Ali Larijani in a strike on Iran. China to send emergency aid to Iran, Jordan, Lebanon, and Iraq. The Supreme Leader Majada Khomeini says now is not the time for peace and the U.S. and Israel must be defeated. A U.S. warship carrying thousands of Marines has arrived in Singapore on its way to the Middle East. Iran says it has seized hundreds of Starlink terminals smuggled in by the U.S. and Israel. Sri Lanka has declared every Wednesday a public holiday to conserve fuel amid shortages fears from the U.S.-Israel war on Iran. So places are starting to ration fuel, guys. I'm telling you, if you can fill up your tanks and that now, do it. Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorist Center under President Trump, has resigned due to the war in Iran. He said, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as director of National Counterterrorism Center effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war with Iran. Iran posed no immediate threat to our nation, and it's clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. That's interesting. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk says the country will not deploy troops to Iran. Israel may close its airspace after the IDF warned of possible large-scale Hezbollah attack in the coming hours. This was as of 10:49 a.m. The Ministry of Transportation is currently conducting a situational assessment with a decision expected soon. The Air and Space Force magazine, America has so far lost approximately 10% of its MQ-9 drone fleet during the war against Iran. That is the Reaper drone. Don't fear the Reaper drone. A medevac flight has taken off from Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, likely headed to Ramstein Air Base in Germany. This comes after the Saudi Minister of Defense reported a large wave of missiles and drone attacks against the country throughout yesterday. U.S. forces are now focused on wiping out Iran's drone and missile factories. Admiral Brad Cooper, the head of the U.S. Central Command, said Monday noting that the U.S. has achieved air superiority. More than 6,000 combat flights were flown in connection with the operation, Cooper said in an update on X. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takahashi last week announced plans to release 80 million barrels of oil from the national stockpiles, the largest drawdown in the country's history. MasterCard to acquire stablecoin infrastructure from BVNK for up to $1.8 billion. oil began flowing through the pipeline near Santa Barbara, California for the first time in over a decade after President Trump's administration ordered offshore production to resume. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban sends a clear message to President Zelensky. No oil, no money. It's that simple. The United States has been informed that most of our NATO allies that they don't want to get involved with our military operation against the terrorist regime of Iran in the Middle East. This despite the fact that almost every country strongly agrees with what we are doing, and that Iran cannot in any way, shape, or form be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. You know what? I seen a quote today that said NATO died in the Strait of Hormuz. I think that might be pretty accurate. CENTCOM reported yesterday that the number of U.S. troops wounded during the Iran war has risen to about 200. Argentina has withdrawn from the World Health Organization, and France will not participate in the operation to unlock the Strait of Hormuz, according to Emmanuel Macron. Iran has reported the first use of the Hajj Qasim missile, named after the RRGC General Soleimani, who has been unalived. Authorities are investigating several shootings across Daytona Beach, Florida during the busy spring break weekend, though officials say none occurred on the beach despite viral social media claims. Deputies with the Valsur County Sheriff's Office reported 133 arrests connected to spring break crowds, including 84 in the Daytona Beach area and 49 in nearby Smyrna Beach. This just came out at noon today. New York City firefighters are currently engaged in a rooftop fire on East 43rd Street in Manhattan. Large clouds of smoke can currently be seen from the St. Patrick's Day parade. Trump commented on Joe Klatt's resignation, saying, "When somebody is working with us and says that they don't think Iran is a threat, we don't need those people, because there are some people, I guess, that would say that, but they're not smart people. They're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat." That's a quote from Trump. Israeli officials privately told U.S. diplomats Iranian protesters would get slaughtered if they tried to topple Iran's government. Trump says, due to none of the NATO countries wanting to help in the Strait of Hormuz, that we no longer need NATO. President Trump has postponed a visit to China by 5 to 6 weeks amid the ongoing war with Iran. U.S. officials are pushing for economic reforms and the release of political prisoners, and border political changes also want some older officers tied to Fidel Castro's revolution ideology removed from power in Cuba. Trump says he may get to take Cuba. According to a report from Reuters, Gulf states urge U.S. to neutralize Iran for good. President Trump has said that he is considering leaving NATO. President Trump told reporters today that the United States was not ready to leave the military operation in Iran yet, but that we will be leaving pretty much the very near future, according to Reuters. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad has come under a drone attack, the Al Hadith television channel reported. According to the TV channel, the sound of explosions are heard from Baghdad's Green Zone, a high-security area housing government buildings and diplomatic missions. Smoke is seen over the U.S. Embassy building. Iran stated today that it is prepared for a long war and will launch much stronger strikes today. So they finally released the name of the guy who rammed through the White House gates last week. I believe it was on the 11th, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, last week. And lo and behold, this lunatic is actually from my hometown. Can you believe that? I don't know him. He's 35 years old, but I've heard the last name before. I'm not going to say it. You can look it up if you want. But that was crazy. I didn't figure anybody in my hometown was even paying attention to what's going on. So that was a little shocking. Figured everybody in my town was just zombies. At least that's how it seems anyway. But apparently somebody actually cared enough to drive all the way to Washington, ram into the gates, and say he had a message from God for Mr. Trump. Oh, I swear the world's gone crazy. Hey guys, just keep prepping, keep doing the things. Y'all know what to do. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see y'all on the next one.